She had never done this before. I am a virgin, she whispered. A virgin? Are you serious? Miss Robertson realized that this was no ordinary situation. In the small coastal village of Krokrobite, there was a humble family that everyone admired. They consisted of Kofi, a fisherman, and his wife Aqua, a talented seamstress. Together they had two beautiful daughters, Amara and Amaka, who despite being a year apart looked so much alike that people often thought they were twins. The family lived a simple but joyful life. Kofi would rise before dawn and set out to the sea with his small boat, while Aqua worked tirelessly, sewing beautiful garments for the village women. Amara, being the older one, was always by her mother's side learning how to sew, while Amaka preferred to run around the village, playing with her friends or sitting by the sea, dreaming of a life full of riches. Despite their outward resemblance, the sisters couldn't be more different. Amara was calm and grateful for the small things in life. She never asked for much, and even as a child, she was satisfied with the simple joys, helping her mother sew, listening to her father's stories of the sea, and walking through the village without a care in the world. But Amaka was different. Even from a young age, Amaka had an envious heart. She wasn't satisfied with their modest life. She would often gaze at the richer families in the village, wondering why she didn't have their fine clothes and fancy shoes. One afternoon, as the two sisters played by the beach, Ajua, a girl known for her wealthy parents, wore a shiny new dress, the kind that sparkled in the sun. "Look at this dress," Ajua boasted. "My father bought it for me from the city. Isn't it beautiful?" Amara smiled politely and complimented her friend, but Amaka could hardly hide her envy. "It's just a dress," she muttered under her breath. When they returned home, Amaka was offended the entire evening. "Why don't we have nice things like Hadra's family?" Amaka complained, crossing her arms. "Why do we have to be poor?" "Amaka, we have everything we need. Mama and Papa work really hard for us. Don't you see how much they do to keep us happy?" But Amaka wasn't listening. Her thoughts were consumed by jealousy, and from that day it grew even worse. As they grew older, this envy followed Amaka everywhere. In school, whenever Amara excelled in her studies, receiving praises from the teachers, Amaka would frown, silently wishing it were her in the spotlight. On one occasion, during a class art competition, Amara won the first prize for a beautiful drawing. As the teacher handed her a small prize, Amaka's heart burned with jealousy. "She thinks she's better than me," Amaka grumbled to her friend afterwards. "Just because she's older, everyone thinks she's special." Her envy didn't stop at her sister. Amaka was envious of other girls in the village too. She envied their clothes, their popularity, and even the attention they received from boys. This jealousy became a constant shadow in Amaka's life. No matter what good came her way, she always felt like others had more and she deserved it all. The family's life took a tragic turn when a terrible storm hit the village. One evening, as Kofi set out to the sea, dark clouds gathered quickly and the winds howled. Aqua, who had been busy sewing a dress, looked out of the window with worry. "I hope your father returns soon," she muttered. Amara and Amaka sensed the tension in the air as rain began to pour heavily. That night, Kofi didn't return home. The next morning, the villagers found his boat wrecked along the shore. Kofi had been taken by the unforgiving sea. The news hit the family hard. Aqua, though heartbroken, tried her best to keep the family together. She continued her seamstress work, but the loss of her husband weighed heavily on her. A few months later, she fell ill. Despite the efforts of the village healer, Aqua's health deteriorated rapidly. Before long, she passed away, leaving Amara and Amaka orphaned. The village mourned the loss of Kofi and Aqua, but life moved on. Amara, though devastated by the loss of her parents, quickly took on the responsibility of caring for her younger sister. She worked hard using the sewing skills her mother had taught her to earn a living. But Amaka, instead of being grateful, grew lazier. She spent her days dreaming of wealth, and her envy towards Amara only deepened. One afternoon, as Amara sat sewing to make some extra money, Amaka paced around the house. "We can't keep living like this," Amaka complained. "We need more money. We need to get out of this village." Amara sighed, tired of hearing the same complaint every now and then. "Amaka, I'm doing my best. We are managing. We don't need much. Why are you always so dissatisfied?" Amaka stopped and looked at her sister. "I don't want to manage. I am tired of managing." A wicked idea forming in her mind. "You know," she began slowly, "there's a way we can get money. I mean quick and easy money." Amara looked up confused. "What are you talking about?" Amaka sat down beside her sister, lowering her voice. "There are rich men who will pay a lot for just one night. You could make more money in one night than you do in 1 month of sewing." "No! How can you even suggest that?" "I'm not doing such a thing." But Amaka was restless. "Think about it, Amara. How long should we live like this? How long should we manage? The rent is due, and we barely have enough for food. Just one night, and we'll have more than enough. It's not like you're doing anything wrong. You just be using what you have to get what you want." Amara was horrified by the suggestion. But as the days passed and the financial pressure mounted, her sister's words began to gnaw at her. Rent was overdue. There was a lot of bills to pay, and there seemed to be no way out. After many sleepless nights, Amara gave in. One evening, she dressed up in her nicest yet modest outfit and made her way to a popular joint where rich men often went. Her heart raced with fear as she stood under the street lamp waiting. Her mind filled with doubt. "What am I even doing here?" she thought, feeling the weight of her decision. Just as she was about to leave, a sleek black car pulled up beside her. "Do you need a ride?" asked the man behind the wheel, his voice deep and smooth. Amara looked up to see a handsome young man with sharp features and kind eyes. His name was Mr. Robertson, a businessman who had recently moved to the town for his business project. Trembling, Amara nodded and got into the car. She had no idea what laid ahead. Mr. Robertson noticed something different about Amara right away. Unlike the other girls he had met before, she seemed hesitant, almost fearful, as they drove toward the hotel. He tried to strike up a conversation, but Amara remained silent. Once inside the room, Mr. Robertson asked her the usual question, "How much will you charge?" Amara froze. She had never done this before. I am a virgin," she whispered, barely able to get the words out. Mr. Robertson was taken aback. "A virgin? Are you serious?" Amara nodded, tears welling in her eyes. Mr. Robertson realized that this was no ordinary situation. After their encounter, he felt guilty, noticing how upset she was. He gave her a lot of money and handed her his business card, apologizing for everything. "If you ever need anything, please call me," he said, looking deeply into her eyes. He could tell she was different, and it bothered him that he had ended up in this situation. Amara went home feeling ashamed and broken. She felt dirty, as if she had betrayed herself. But Amaka, waiting eagerly for her sister to return, was only interested in the money. "Well, did you get the money?" Amaka asked excitedly. Amara shoved the money and the business card into her sister's hand and stormed off. to her room, not wanting to talk about it. Amaka looked at the card, her eyes lightened up with greed. Mr. Robertson, a rich businessman. She had to meet him. Without telling Amara, Amaka called Mr. Robertson, pretending to be her sister. She arranged to meet with him at the same spot. When they met, Mr. Robertson noticed that something was different, but he couldn't quite figure it out. He apologized again for not believing her the first time and tried to make amends. Amaka was a bit lost but quickly played along. So this is the rich man my sister met, and she's crying. Since she doesn't want him, me, I need him. I need him in my life. Amaka, now determined to have Mr. Robertson all to herself, began meeting him regularly, pretending to be Amara. This is the kind of man I need in my life, she said to herself. But Mr. Robertson said in his heart, this is not the girl I met. Something is definitely wrong here. Do you have a sister? He asked. But Amaka, knowing he was becoming suspicious, denied having a sister. No, I'm the only child of my parents. But he wasn't convinced, but played along. I'll get to the bottom of this, he said in his heart. After 2 weeks, Amara asked Amaka for the card, but she lied that she threw it away since she didn't want him. You know you're my sister, and I know you very well, and I also know when you're lying. Before I close my eyes and open them, you've given me that card. I know you finished the money. At least you paid the bill, so that's okay. You can do whatever you want with the money. I don't care about the money. I don't need it. But you see that card? I need to see that card right now. You will not like what I'll do to you. Amaka was surprised and scared at the same time. She had not seen her so angry before. So she quickly gave her the card out of fear. When she called Mr. Robertson and explained who she was, he was surprised. She sounded very calm, unlike Amaka, and the numbers were different. This must be the real person, he said. But because he wanted to know the truth, he played along so he could see her in person. Amaka never imagined that Amara would ask of the card again. When they met, he asked her if she had a sister that looked like her. Yes, sir, she said. We are 1 year apart, but you could hardly tell the difference. Even our parents always had a hard time differentiating us when they were alive. Then he told her what her sister had been doing. She was speechless. Don't confront her. Now I know the difference. I'll play along. I know exactly what to do. When she got home, she wanted to confront her, but she didn't want to disrespect Mr. Robertson, so she let her. Mr. Robertson started ignoring Amaka's call. She knew her sister and Mr. Robertson must have seen each other, and she must have told him about her. He also would have asked if she had a sister, just like he asked her. But she refused to give up. She became even more desperate when Mr. Robertson proposed to Amara after 6 months of dating. Amaka's envy boiled over. She couldn't bear the thought of Amara having the life she wanted. Desperate, Amaka consulted a local herbalist who gave her a charm to use on her sister. If she rubbed a special white handkerchief on her sister's face while she slept, it would make her lose interest in the marriage. But there was a catch. It had to be done within 3 nights, after which it becomes useless and there will be consequences if not used within the first 3 nights. On the first night, Amara stayed late making clothes. She needed to deliver the next day. On the second night, she equally stayed at the shop and didn't come back home. By the third night, Amaka was frustrated. Amara was up all through the night with a severe stomach ache that couldn't let her sleep until morning. Amaka couldn't access Amara. On the day of the traditional marriage, as the village gathered to celebrate, Amara lost control. In front of everyone, she started to laugh uncontrollably, pulling out her hair. She confessed everything, her jealousy, her deceit, and the plan to ruin her sister's marriage. The villagers were shocked. How could our own sister do this?" they whispered. Amara, though heartbroken by her sister's betrayal, forgave her, but the charm had already backfired and there was nothing Amara could do about it. Amaka's jealousy had driven her mad. Amara and Mr. Robertson went on to marry and live happily, while Amaka wandered the village, a broken shell of her former self, mad in the streets of the village. Moral lessons. Jealousy is like a wildfire that burns everything in its path. What is meant for you will come in its own time. Trying to take what belongs to someone else will only lead to your ruin. If you do good, good will return to you. If you do evil, you will reap the consequences. God's time is always the best. Be patient and wait for your own time. Time and chance happens to everyone. God bless you.